Havertz is more about ratings. And the way Havertz gets ratings if he starts scoring goals. And he will score goals, by the way. He gets into way too many good positions.
Needs
not
to get
score
shooting
goals.
boots on, though. You're right. He does get into
of
the areas. Just needs to learn how to finish. But Odegaard, Martinelli, even Granit Xhaka last season, Arteta's shown that he could do that. Do you actually think Havertz will win every Arsenal fan's heart? Because as you kind of said, he's a divisive figure. There's a bit of untapped potential. Is he a striker? Is he a midfielder? He's obviously got the Chelsea staff. I'm pretty sure I speak for everybody apart from Mikel Arteta, which he's the man with the plan. When we was talking about central mid options or improvements, maybe too many people didn't know too much about Timber, but they can see what he brings if they just look on YouTube. Evidently, Declan Rice. I don't think there's anybody that has anything bad to say, maybe the price tag, but Havertz is a device. Do you think he'll ever win fans over? Because you mentioned Mesut Ozil. That was a man who, he was lit. I know he's lit. I think even the haters know he's lit. And, he did sign for us and end the trophy drought. But I wouldn't say he's convinced every Arsenal fan.
Look, it's a very good way to win fans over, and that's put in good performances. The prime example is Granit Xhaka. He booed the fans, or, he said something to the fans didn't like, he got booed off, stripped off the captain's armband. But he put in good performances. And when you put in good performances, fans have no choice but to like you. So it's simple with Havertz. I think it's a matter of once he starts scoring those goals, because I think he will score those goals. And I think he will be one of Arsenal's top goal scorers this season because his movement's just so good. And, I'm not saying he's an amazing finisher, but having seen Martin Odegaard become a 15-goal season midfielder and coming into Arsenal, he was never that. Havertz has proven he can score goals before at Chelsea and more by Leverkusen. So he's got the potential. It's just about confidence. Confidence is very important. I think when you think about your own selves and lives, when you're confident in life, everything just clicks into place. Everything's flow state. You know what you're doing. And once Havertz gains that confidence by a few goals, you can just see that what he'll do. But I think every single game I'm seeing him play on an Arsenal shirt, I can see more and more of him fitting in, of him improving, learning, and I think learning his teammates and vice versa as well. So I think he'll come good.
I think you're bang on there with learning your teammates. I think in terms of understanding their role and stuff, I'd say out of the three signings, I think Timber's hit it off immediately. I think Rice is there, but you can see Rice is still learning like the other elements of the game, affecting the game in the opponent's half. Probably unfortunate not to score in his debut, but he's getting there. And I think Havertz fits in. It's just a case of finding that balance of fitting in and now standing out. As you said, and as I said when he actually signed for the club, there's evidently a lot of frustrations with Havertz. You can see why he's a divisive player, but he makes good runs. He's intelligent. He gets into the area. As I just said, I think he needs to find his shooting boots, but he is an intelligent player, and I'm prepared to give Mikel Arteta the luxury of, just letting the man bed in. And I do want Havertz, and I think he has come here with a sense of urgency because obviously he's not really unearthed his full potential. You've kind of been in a rebuild at Chelsea. You've been considered damaged goods. You're staying in London. You're more or less a veteran player coming into this system. You've won Champions League. As you said, you've been about at Leverkusen. You play for your country. I look at him to the same way I look at when Odegaard walked in, or Benjamin White and Ramsdale, and that in the face of it, you're quote unquote inexperienced, but there's a good foundation of experience that you lot can spread to the rest of the team. Where do you think he ends up though? Because Arteta, for me, he exclusively talks about him as a midfielder, but with every time he talks about midfielder, he talks about his versatility. He said he can play on the right. Obviously, I won't say it took us by surprise, but if you go back to last week, or the week before in the build-up to this Man City game, it was all Trossard already. He played Havertz and he did quite well. Where do you think he ends up? Because for me personally, I think he's a centre mid, but I think for Havertz right now, it's a case of if you're going to be a striker, if you're going to be a centre mid, wherever you're going to play, lock down one role first, and then you're able to be adaptable. Like you can evidently see with Timber, you're a right back, that's centre half, you can play left back. The same goes for Tomiyasu and, forcing it with Odegaard in the 8 and the 10. So where are you at with that?
Yeah, I think he's at 8-10. And I think where we see him, in the second half against Forest is where he's going to play. And I think that's why we signed Declan Rice, is because he's just so good defensively. And I think Arteta wants 5 top defensive players ahead of his goalkeeper to just be, top 1v1, great transition control. And that gives you the ability to have Odegaard and Havertz. And because they both work hard as well, they're never going to be a liability defensively. They're going to always work hard. They're always going to track back. So it's a matter of, I think he will be number 8. He'll be the arriving there into the box, playing behind a proper striker and just, feeding off kind of like little poaching goals and stuff. And you think about the goal he scored against Barcelona, that type of goal there. You look at his movement for Edin Nketiah's goal. Nketiah scored the goal, but Havertz he's there. Havertz was on his own. No other Arsenal player was there, but Havertz just very intelligent player. And I think fans will only see that once you start scoring goals, because fans see numbers. That's what they see. Fans want to see numbers, and when you
not even just that, man. They see sofa score ratings, as we know. Like, I'm pretty sure
score ratings.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure you was at the game or you watched the game, and it's like, I don't know about you, but sometimes you'll watch a match and you'll go on social media, and obviously everyone's allowed their opinion. But you're like, are you watching the game, or are you watching it with vested agendas, or are you watching 30-second disaster cast clips and that, man?
Yeah, I think some fans need to understand this as well, that there's different perspectives, and when you understand that, you start to realize, okay, he has that, but he's seeing it different to how I'm seeing it. And I think the most important perspective is Mikel Arteta's. And the fact that he starts Havertz, and I think he started every single game for Arsenal since signing, he sees something, and there's a reason behind that.
Do you think we have enough in midfield?
I think so. I think, maybe you could add another profile that can play, if Havertz isn't playing well in that role, have more of a Xhaka type of player. You could play Rice there, of course, but I would like to have, the dream would have been Caicedo. I think would have been amazing in that position.
Don't mention his name.
That sort of profile would have been nice, I think. And I think that's what also still wanting as well. But that's like an ideal world. And sometimes in the transfer market, those players aren't there. And it's rather than go and panic and just signing any player that can play there, you wait for the right opportunity, like Declan Rice, for example, and then sign the right player there. But that's probably the next thing in midfield I want to add. But apart from that, there's so many different profiles. Partey can play there, Rice can play there. You've got Jorginho as a bit of experience. El Neni's just the 4th, 5th choice now. Ben White, I think, can maybe play there in the future. I think Timber
maybe
can
even potentially Timber if he never,
Zinchenko. Zinchenko, what he does so well is, I don't know if he's got potential to break into the box and play as an 8. But he's got so much of what I want from an 8 as well. Maybe something we see more often this season. Maybe keep an eye on it.
And then obviously, as much as I agree with you, I would want another midfielder. I think one more body and I'd be fine. I'm just wary of, I'm all for Rice or Partey as the lone 6 to kind of chaperone, and then rotating 8s of Odegaard, Fabio Vieira, Havertz, Smith Rowe, so on and so forth. And obviously for me, the first choice trio should be Partey, Rice and Odegaard. I just feel we need one more, whether that's another number 6 or, like you said, someone that kind of does the Xhaka thing. Someone that, because, Havertz can play in midfield, but he's almost like an experiment. We have to kind of mold him. Obviously, if we sign someone, we're not going to get the Tchouaménis and them kind of man there, but if we could sign someone that's a bit raw, but they kind of are a centre mid out and out, I think we'd be cooking. I just think we're a bit short, a bit like Liverpool, really. And that Liverpool just need a 6 or 2, and they're kind of set there. I think one more midfield body, it is what it is. But I do think naturally in the next couple of years, I think we'll look to sign another one, because I don't think El Nene, Jorginho or Partey are going to necessarily be here forever. So you're fully right. What have you made on Declan Rice? Because for me personally, every game he plays, you can see him getting better. I do think people think just because you signed for 105 million, you got the experience that he needs to get 1 million goals, 1 million assists, 10 out of 10 game. You can evidently see somebody that is learning. I think he's starting to arrive in the box. He's actually making them kind of Martinelli runs. I do think, not that he's playing within himself, because I know he's been playing with a knock, but he's got ball playing ability. Like, he can hit a crossfield pass. I kind of think at times he's playing it a bit safe, but I do like that because he doesn't force it. What have you made of Declan Rice so far in the Arsenal shirt?
I think not only is he getting better, but I think he's just growing in confidence. And that's what it is. I think he's got the quality naturally. It's just about you growing in confidence game by game and understanding that I'm that guy. They spent £100 million on. I am that guy. But I don't think he wants to mention that too often. And it's because when the moment you understand that £100 million, you can deep it too much and overthink stuff. And I think right now he's keeping it simple. And that's exactly what I want from the player.
Stu, what got you here, innit?
Yeah, I think with him, is he a Enzo Fernandez type of ping the ball forwards? He can do it, but not as good as, or not as consistent as him. But Rice has been brought into Arsenal because we've already got a player like that, like Thomas Partey, who's very, very aggressive with his passing. And it's good to have a player that just sets a tempo, keeps his tipping, keeps the team moving along. And so when you've got the progressive players elsewhere, I don't think we need Rice to be too expansive right now, but he has it in his locker. And I think the most important part about Rice, which has impressed me the most, is his defensive ability. Think about the amount of times teams will try to counter-attack or whatever, and Rice is just there, and he just
that transition where he clamped Bernardo Silva last week, 2 weeks ago.